Good morning, everyone. Hypnosis is one of those subjects that is shrouded in mystery in many ways. But hypnosis is essentially an altered state of awareness. And although I work in the field of contemporary hypnosis and therapy, and I'm a great champion of contemporary hypnosis and therapy, of course, hypnosis has very ancient roots. And I wish to begin to introduce you to the notion and the phrase that you will all have heard, sleep on it. The notion being that if you sleep on it, you are going to feel hugely better in the morning, that a process of healing is going to happen during those hours of repose, of sleep and relaxation. Hypnosis, of course, is, in a sense, a fast-track way to reach that state and appearance of sleep, because hypnosis is not sleep. Hypnosis is an altered state, as meditation is an altered state of being and awareness. But the ancient peoples, the megalithic peoples, and particularly the people of Malta, the ancients of Malta, who more than likely came from Sicily, although, of course, there's many, many theories about the origins of the temples in Malta. In Malta, there is a building known as the Hypnogeum, and whereas the Egyptians built as their sense of concept of as above, so below, they built the temples. I think they're in the form of Orion's belt, the three main pyramids. In Malta, they built their temples beneath the ground. And they built these temples in such a state that as they were building them, they themselves were in an altered state of awareness. And this altered state was created by chanting, by prayer, by repetition, in the same way that many of you will be familiar with mantra meditation, and of course entheogens, which were plant forms where they created teas or medicaments which they drank or they ate, imbibed in some form. And if you consider that as they were going deeper, the top image on that handout shows a hypnogeum. It shows a temple. It's something like 40 meters deep. And as these people created the temple, they were literally going deeper and deeper and deeper, not only within their interior state, but also in the sense of the interior environment that they were creating. The other image there is of the sleeping lady. The sleeping lady is a very small, she's about 4 inches in length, a small image that was found within the Hypnogeum. And when I first went to the Hypnogeum, I was very, very intrigued because there are sleeping chambers. And this led me to think, oh my goodness, was hypnosis performed in the Hypnogeum? Well, not necessarily hypnosis, but what was very likely to have been performed is something called dream incubation. And dream incubation was a form of healing where a person would go to visit what was called, a healer was called an iatromantis. This is a Greek word. And literally people would go to visit a healer called an iatromantis, which it actually means physician seer. So it was in Greek times and Pythagorean times almost was a medical treatment, and people literally went to visit the iatromantis to sleep on it. But they wouldn't sleep just overnight. They would sleep for 2 or 3 days. And the priest or the atramantis would guide them into sleep. This is conjecture in a sense, but they were guided into a deep, deep state of sleep and healing for their body to recover. And as they awoke, having slept on it, their healing had occurred. With dream incubation, there's also a second side to this, in that the iatromantis, the physician seer, would also dream, and would dream of possibilities of a cure, or so the theory goes. So I wish you to think about this notion of sleeping on it, and sleep in the context of hypnosis and therapy. Because as a hypnotherapist, I too am only guiding you into this state of relaxation. I, or a hypnotherapist, cannot make you go into relaxation. It's very much a voluntary state. As these people who went to meet with the healer in ancient times, megalithic times, and I guess just to mention, I've just overlooked to say, the Hypogeum predates the pyramids by 500 years. The Stonehenge, I believe, follows around 500 years after the pyramids. So just to put this in context, in terms of literally the vision of these people, and the miraculous, they were miraculous times. So when you come to see someone like myself, you are being guided into the state of sleep, an illusion of sleep. And it's a state that you are very, very familiar with. It is a state, an altered state of awareness, as meditation is an altered state of awareness. Though, of course, you may argue you do different things in meditation. You may have a different reason for meditating, but essentially it's to take you into this state of peace and into this state of communion with yourself. And I would argue that the Atramantis was also guiding these people into a state of communion with themselves, such they were fully responsible in a sense for their own healing and their own revelation and their own self-understanding. And so it potentially was a healing tool of empowerment and self-empowerment. The Hypogeum is known to have been used as a way for women to become fertile, to become pregnant. So the Malta does have a lot to do with the goddess energy as well. Television is one of the best inducers of altered states and trance there is. So when people sometimes come to me and say, oh, I'd never go into hypnosis, no one's going to take control of my mind, I assure you there's much more out there that is controlling your mind. I feel that in today's contemporary world, we almost need to walk around with blinkers on to choose what information we internalize, what we choose to believe. In hypnosis and interactive hypnosis and therapy, you are very much choosing to design your own labels. You're choosing the nutrition that you wish for your subconscious mind to receive and to act upon. With television and particularly advertisers are blissfully aware that when someone watches television and they're watching television as a so-called couch potato, or they're channel surfing, their subconscious mind has come to the fore and their conscious mind has stepped into the wings, which is why advertising is so very successful. That you're you are allowing your subconscious to receive these messages and for many people to act upon them. Now, of course, some advertising are positive messages. Positive, if you think of billboards, which I'm sometimes astonished by. If you think of a Louvre advertising billboard, where the billboard message literally filters, it changes, it flickers. And I'm astonished that these are allowed for people driving, because they are hugely distracting. But what the advertisers know is, because you are also driving in an altered state of awareness, especially when you know the route supremely well, when you arrive at B with no recollection of the journey from A to B, and you think, my goodness, and you've gone off and you've created a talk, you've considered what you're going to say to your boss to ask for a pay rise, or you're going in for a job appraisal, and you've thought about the possibilities of what you're going to say, or what they might say to you, and then you're there. And you, in a sense, you've been absent, but what has been present is your subconscious mind, which holds a map of the journey. And so this is what we call autopilot. But you've driven on autopilot, but that also is mild hypnosis. Those of you that run, that jog, I mean, joggers talk about going into the zone, and that too is a light form of trance, a light form of hypnosis, if you like. Hypnosis is in this communion with yourself, in this state of communion with yourself. I sometimes talk we in this state of relaxation, and really it's a little blasé to say hypnosis is only relaxation, but the feeling is simply a state of relaxation. That sometimes people think, oh, I'm going to log out. I'm not going to remember anything. But hypnosis is not about logging out. Hypnosis is very much about logging in to a deeper wisdom, and logging in to a place inside yourself where you have access to the best and the brightest of yourself. That so often many of us are carrying a life sentence, or I mentioned a label, which was given to us by a school teacher or a bully or a boss. You know, the first time, we all remembered maybe the first time we got fired, and how that, you know, impacted on our sense of self-esteem and sense of self-worth, and our need for courage to get back out there. But depending on our sensitivity, and of course this is such a personal thing, because you know some kids at school who could take the rough and tumble. But you also remember a kid at school, I'm sure, who to this day, even I reflect on a child at school, and how cruel the teachers were in repeating every single day a situation or a behavior of a child. And of course, as children, if things are oft repeated, we're like sponges. We're so vulnerable to the vocabularies that are given to us by other people. And depending on our sensitivity on any particular day, if a kid said, "You stammer," I've had clients who have manifested a stammer. It's almost like the waving of a bone to a witch doctor, and a person quite incredibly goes away and dies. And so words are so, we all know that poem, which is astonishing, you know, sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. I mean, it's utter tripe and bilge, because I believe that the words that we absorb into our subconscious are equally as important as the nourishment, as the food we choose to take in. That words are the equivalent of vitamins to our subconscious mind and to our ability to function and shine. And so with contemporary hypnosis and therapy, you are being guided back potentially to, if you think about it, to update your emotional resume, which can get stuck. You know, I say every new job you get, every consultancy post you get, every freelance job you get, you whack it on your CV. And, you know, it's tickety-boo, up to date, here I am, this is who I am, and this is what I've achieved. It's all on paper. But you know, inside yourself, you can be harboring a fear, or are they going to find out about me? They're going to find out I'm not good enough for this job, that I shouldn't be here, and they made a huge mistake. Women especially can do this. You know, they reach these great positions, but they go in day after day after day with the fear of thinking they're going to blush, or they do blush, and then they'll think, oh, the boss will think I haven't done it, or so. And so our emotional resume can get stuck way back when. 9, 10, 13, 15. It could even be 21. It does make an assumption about when we can get stuck. But with participative hypnosis, you can take yourself back to the moment, the situation, the circumstance, when as a child you may have stumbled over a word, or you were bullied at school, and or there's a generation of people truly who believe they're bad people because they write with their left hand, you know, and because they were told every day they were the work of the devil, and this is what they believe, that they've never done anything good. And so imagine the healing to realize for their adult self, to reach this younger person within inside themselves, and to learn and to speak to the teacher who used to tell you this every day, or to liberate yourself from the bullies who held you in a corner every day and made going to school such a rather than a happy exercise, a really difficult and challenging and fearful exercise. And you are able to reconcile these events and to bring a refreshed and liberated and empowering emotional resume, so it's bang up to date with your work resume. So it makes sense that you feel much more integrated, you feel much more whole, you feel much more authentic. And what is astonishing is that in hypnosis, the subconscious cannot tell the difference between doing something in reality and doing it in hypnosis, which is why the healing is so immediate. You know, even though a person may come with significant trauma, there is completion, there is freedom to move on. And the way I work is I build a team, support you in building a team to move forward with you. So you have this championing, celebrating, designer label team that you've designed, not that someone else has designed, because most of you know designer labels are not about what you wear. The most important designer labels are within you. And some of us are wearing outmoded labels, second-hand labels that were so often given to us by someone else. And so it's a very liberating, very empowering experience. And of course, hypnosis, sometimes people, they wonder how evidence-based it is. There's a lot of... there's a gentleman called Professor John Griselier. He did significant work at Imperial College where they put people into hypnosis, which for 20 minutes, morning and evening. Now this is intriguing because you will know that this is very similar to the transcendental meditation technique, where they would meditate for 20 minutes in the morning and in the evening, or recommended. And so a little bit like the iatromantis, the hypnotherapist guiding a person into hypnosis, what Professor John Griselier did was patients with cancer were guided into hypnosis. They did nothing else. They did no even direct suggestion hypnosis, but they certainly did nothing interactively, just how I work. And they found that a person just being in this deep state of relaxation effectively improved the effectiveness of the medications and the success of the treatment. So and equally that would be as successful with meditation too. So as you know, a person that meditates, it's hugely impactful for health and well-being. So likewise, to learn self-hypnosis, if that, depending on what your bag is, you know, it is equally as supportive for health and wellness. I don't want to overrun. Please could someone tell me how much time I have? Okay, thank you. And so if you take away anything, I'm going to do a small technique in a moment, which is great. Children love it as well. And that's one of the things I always say, celebrate your inner child, you know. Like within your, you know, our subconscious mind is like, I don't know if any of you collected your birthday cards. I used to collect my birthday cards, and then my dad had collected years 1, 2, and 3. I remember after he passed, you know, suddenly I had these envelopes with my birthday cards in. But your subconscious mind is a little bit like that. It remembers every year, every moment, it's a recording device, which is why you might think, oh my gosh, you know, how's this going to help me? How am I going to remember that? But and of course, someone who blushes. There were many incidents when you may have blushed, but you only need to go to one of them. And of course, just like you could go, if you collected your birthday cards, to birthday number 4, your subconscious mind can go back. It's like going back to a track on the CD. And sometimes you come out of hypnosis and think, oh my goodness, but that was nothing. But of course, it was something to your child. It was a huge event. It was, and so sometimes people think they're going to remember something they don't know about. It's absolutely not true. What you get are the links and the correspondences to what your drivers have been. And you'll think, oh yeah, I knew about that, but I haven't thought about it for years. So think about, please, think about the words, the vocabularies that you use to describe yourself. Words are truly as important as the food you choose to eat. And you choose to eat healthy food, so please choose to imbibe very delicious, healthy, honoring vocabulary that does each of you justice. And a small technique which I'd like you to consider is perhaps just for a couple of moments, just allow your eyes to close, and you're all amazingly and wonderful at going into an interior state, and you've already experienced this already this morning with Magnus. And I'd like you to imagine that somewhere in your body or your mind is an engine room, a small room, a control room. And it may not be where you'd imagine it to be. It may be a place that really quite surprises you. And be curious as to whether this special room has a door on it or not. And if it has a door on it, I'd like you to open the door. Otherwise, just be curious to step inside. And there in this room are many levers and buttons and switches and dials, and maybe even a console panel. And each and every lever or switch or dial or button has a label on it. Some are labels about health. Some are labels about confidence and self-esteem building and self-worth and self-celebration. Or there may be labels about sport and being great at tennis or football. or energy. And I'd just like you right now just to be curious, to choose one area: health, confidence, sports, and to walk over to that switch or lever or button or dial and to adjust it to the optimum level it could possibly be for you. To whack up the volume on confidence, and when it's at the best optimum level it could possibly be, secure it. Make sure some of them might be a bit rusty. You can put some oil on there. You can do some polishing. And know that each and every one of you can go back into this engine room in a heartbeat, just by thinking of it. And you can go back in and fine-tune whatever area of your life you wish to enhance, so that each and every switch, lever, button, or dial does you great and shining justice. You only need a couple of minutes. And now, in your own time, safely and securely step out of this engine room. And if your engine room had a door in it, please ensure the door is closed. And remember, you can go back into this room in a heartbeat, just by thinking of it. And in your own time, just allow your eyes to open, feeling polished, shining, and energized. And go forth and celebrate yourselves. Thank you very much. Thank you.